Hello. So, this is going to be a bit awkward for me to get started because all the times I've liked the idea of starting a podcast and whatever, I've never really known where I would take it. I've got lots of thoughts and just lots of thoughts and opinions of video games, of course. And I love talking about video games, but I I can ramble, and I imagine that I'm not the only one that gets annoyed by hearing somebody repeat themselves 100 times over, or just rambling and not having a message. um, so that's a little bit of why I've had a hard time deciding into trying to do a podcast. So this will be an awkward first episode kind of a thing. I hope that you like it. I want to tell you. Let me tell you what I'm going to make this episode about. This is something I've wanted to talk about for gosh years now. Something that every time I come across articles and headlines and just whatever reviews and everything, it just drives me nuts. And that is games that launch buggy. And because of that, not just launching buggy, but because of launching buggy, having a bad reputation forever. People don't give them a chance. Usually, right? Usually, it doesn't happen until many years later when people start going, you know what, it wasn't as bad as people said. Like, I literally just saw this 2 days ago. I thought I was laughing. I knew it was coming. These are starting to come sooner than they used to, though. I saw this years back. Okay, years back, man. I started to recognize it. I don't remember exactly. This was years ago, but I started to see comments from people on different things when something new was related to the developer or studio or whatever. And then people be like, "Oh, you remember that one game? That was actually a really good game." Now, for example, one of those is Bulletstorm. Another is Brink, and another is Alice Madness Returns. These are three of my most favorite games ever, and that's why I can remember why they got shit on hardcore, like when they first, came out and stuff. Um, so, oh gosh, why was I? Why was I even thinking about that? I know I wanted, because those are not the games I was talking about as far as being buggy. It's just, years later, you'll hear people on those same games talk about how excellent they were. And this is this is the smaller voice that really loved the game when it came out, most likely, right? These are the people that will say, like, yeah, I loved it. And then of course, through the years after that, other people eventually got around to playing it. And then you get to see, a decade later that, oh, you know what, that game was actually pretty cool. um it's happening a little bit faster now, like a little bit faster. I have already seen this with Anthem. It's not as big deal though. Still most people are just, no, not Anthem. But I've already seen several articles on that, on how it wasn't so bad and whatever. And then just, I think it was 2 days ago, I saw one on Mass Effect Andromeda, and this has come up from time to time, like randomly, right? Like sometimes it's just random. And they're like, oh, it's not as bad as everybody made it out to be. And I've been saying that, since the first day it came out. Or, not like not launch day, but like just that I like the game, and the thing about it is, it reminds me a little bit of On Live. Because I'll never forget the community that I engaged with on there when, everybody just shat on everything all the time, just complaints, nonstop complaints. And here I am, like, enjoying the crap out of it, and I think it's amazing. And I'm just I agree that there's something to complain about. Yeah, of course, right? Like, I mean, there's always something to complain about. But that doesn't mean it sucks. So Mass Effect Andromeda is a game I really enjoyed very much. I would love a sequel to that. I really would. I really, really would. And it's not because I thought that Andromeda was such a truly excellent game. It was because I really liked it. I liked it enough to want to see it continue. I liked the story, and I especially liked the way it ended. Like, I thought the way it ended, it made me want a sequel. I was like, holy crap, I want more of this. Like, I want to see what happens next, And of course, I would want the game to be bigger. I would want to be able to visit more planets, There wasn't a whole lot you could do planet-wise. I think, if I remember right, there was, like, only 3 planets you actually played on. it has been a while since I played all the way through it. Like I've gone back and I've started New Game Plus, and I played like a few hours of my New Game Plus, but I haven't played through it very much. Um, and I think there's like 3 different planets you visit, whatever. So it would definitely, of course, be cooler to be able to visit more planets and have more to it, But what it did have was cool. I actually really enjoyed the gameplay. I think specifically on Mass Effect Andromeda, the animations were pretty annoying looking, right? Gameplay wise, it was mostly fine. I think the transition from walking and sprinting was not very good. Like that was terrible. But the gameplay itself, as far as shooting and abilities, combat, like I liked it. I thought it was cool. And one thing that really bugs me about games, I'm gonna be super going off topic a lot here. Kind of, it's all related, right? That's why it's like I don't know. I'll figure this out as I go, I guess, right? How to specifically keep on topic and whatever, but it's all related. But one thing and that I was just thinking of the combat for Mass Effect Andromeda, the one thing that most games bug me about are the variety of enemies. There's just not a lot. You don't you play, you play this game for 100 hours, 50 to 100 hours, whatever. And sometimes shorter, but you play these games, they're really long, and you're just fighting the same exact enemy over and over and over and over again. It's like, dude, come on, like give me something different, So I don't know. That's definitely one of my major complaints in general for games right now. But I liked the combat. I liked the skill trees, like in Andromeda, Mass Effect Andromeda, the skill trees, the abilities. I actually, during my New Game Plus, I think it was, I swapped out my points, my skills. Since I was playing New Game Plus, I was like, all right, you know what? Let me try all new abilities and stuff. And I actually did that a couple times because the first abilities I tried, I just wasn't into. Like I tried to do a mesh of like flamethrower and then the freeze thrower kind of. It's the flamethrower but cold instead. And I was like, all right, let me mix these 2 abilities up. And I tried that, and it wasn't bad or anything, but it was also just I was bored. I was like, eh. So I switched abilities after that to something else. I forget what. I think I focused more on guns, actually, which is interesting because no matter what, like, your abilities are always more powerful, and that's usually how it goes in any game, right? Like, that has guns and abilities. Like, your abilities are always more powerful. Anyways, so Mass Effect Andromeda, let me see, Anthem. Now, I kind of don't want to talk about Anthem because I have talked about it so much in the past. I have not done a podcast on it or anything, but I'll mention it because I'll never forget it. Like, I will never forget how much I loved that game. I wish it was a game that I could keep playing. Sometimes I think about it often. I'm like, I kind of want to go back and play it, but I had enough out of it. I got enough out of it. I really enjoyed it, and going back to play it, like, it's cool, but that's actually one of those things I wish I had friends to play with too. And I wouldn't. It's hard to go. I would recommend that to other people. Like, if you have friends that you can play a game with, try out Anthem because it's really designed for co-op, and it's perfectly fine and playable and fun solo. But the classes and the way the abilities sync with each other, and it's really freaking cool. Like, it really is. It's so good. But yeah. So that game launched with the funny thing to me about Anthem I always, in my head, I laugh about this all the time, is like the complaints are how about launched buggy and stuff, and I'm just like, it really wasn't that bad. It really wasn't. It was pretty normal. Like, most games kind of have like these launch issues where they crash and whatever. I played that. Well, actually, no. I didn't play that on launch. Actually, no. I forgot it. I played the beta. No, but I don't know, man. Like, it's a game crashes like whoop-de-doo. I'll tell you what, I like Watch Dogs Legion is the most I've ever encountered crashes on a game on PS4. I'm just like, dude. And even then, I have over 120 hours played on that game. Like, I loved it. I still think 1 is the most superior game of the 3 games. 1 is the number 1 best, But I loved Legion. I thought it was cool. It did crash a lot, though, for sure. Man. But no, so for me, the biggest thing on Anthem was the lack of content. I actually it was a weird thing for me to learn on that one because I one of the things that I hate about any of the games that I play, like including Destiny, which I love those games generally, right? But it bothered me for a while. And for some reason, like Anthem just clicked with me. I think it was just because the gameplay was just so much fun. The universe was excellent. Like, and I just loved the game so much that I allowed myself to get into the stupid lore of it in the game and the journal crap that you pick up. And normally I hate that. Normally, like right, like for Elder Scrolls, for example, or RPG, old school RPGs where you got all the story from the books, and you would get these enormous books, right? Like you go to a library, you find a book on a bookshelf or whatever, right, or whatever, a table, and you open it up, and this is old school, these are the older games, sometimes the newer ones, but it's very common in the older ones where like if you would open up one of those books, it'd be long as hell. Like you're just sitting there for 10 minutes reading a freaking book in a video game, and I'm just like, dude, I don't want to do that in my video game. Like, I want to play. And that's kind of like, I mean, I'm like that even with games that have cinematic storytelling, like The Last of Us, for example. Lots of, gosh, many hours of boredom in those games. But the story is really good and stuff. So anyways, my point is, I normally did not like reading. I did not like, I mean, I still don't. Like, I still prefer not to stop and have to read a story in the game. But when it's quick and to the point and it's not like super long and I don't have to spend more than a minute reading it, right? Like if I can spend 30 seconds reading something, a minute max, and the story that I'm reading is actually interesting, then I'm cool with that. And that's another thing, a lot of stories, no matter, even including cinematics, like say you watch like a 10-minute cinematic and like 2 minutes of it, or not even two, like there's just half of it is really boring, you're just like, I'll be falling asleep during cinematics and then something cool happens and I'm like, oh, finally something cool happened kind of a thing. And this happens in the same kind of thing with those journals and stuff like that. Like, that was one of my favorite things about Kingdoms of Amalur, where, for the most part, almost everybody you ever spoke with was straight to the point, direct to the story, and it was all interesting and cool. And then if you wanted lore, you could, on your own, if you wanted to, you could select the optional dialogues, which would give you some extra bits, which was cool. So for the most part, I mean, even that game, wasn't super perfect, but it was really good as far as the writing was, and I was always interested in the stories they were telling me. I'll never forget that about that one specifically. So anyways, back to Anthem. You see what I mean? Like, it's, it's so easy to get sidetracked into stuff. But, yeah, that was the first game, Anthem specifically, because I had played Destiny, and then I remember the complaints about, I never bothered with it myself, but I remember people complaining about having to go to the website to get lore. And I'm like, yeah, I fully understand that. Like, that's incredibly stupid. It's cool as an option, but you would expect it to be in the game. You know what I mean? Right? Like, it's kind of like, even I think Final Fantasy 15 went through that crap as well. They had the freaking cartoon, the whole CGI movie on the side and all that crap that they eventually put in the game itself. And they restructured the game, and what a mess that was. Anyways, Anthem, and okay, so what else? Oh, it was Mass Effect Andromeda, Anthem, and I know there was another game that I was trying to. I was thinking of it before, but I'm forgetting what it is right now. Oh, Marvel's Avengers, actually, Marvel's Avengers, which is really interesting to me on that one. I can understand a lot of the complaints about it, and even I have. I have plenty of complaints about Marvel's Avengers, but that one was less about bugs and more to do with their like free-to-play model and a campaign-based game kind of a thing, and they'd made some really poor decisions with that, and it's really sad because that campaign is actually freaking awesome. Like, it's really cool. It's a really cool campaign, but they besides the free-to-play microtransaction type thing that they did, like, it's just so bad, dude. It's so bad. It's gross. It's not even like you're like a good free-to-play pay model that, because there are good free-to-play games out there, right? Yeah. But it's more like a mobile free-to-play game, like, pay model, so it's just really nasty. It's so gross. But the campaign was really cool. I like the game a lot. The biggest issue with that one was not just the microtransaction crap, but There's just a few missions, not a lot, but they're, they have these like multiplayer based objective kind of game modes in it. You gotta like hold a point and capture it and stuff like that. That was just a really bad idea, and I get that they threw it in because of co-op, but like that was, I don't know. That specifically feels tacked on. I don't know if it was. Because I do know, they did have this whole idea of having it be a co-op game, but that specific style of objective in that kind of game, co-op or single player, whatever, it just doesn't belong, right? It doesn't feel like it you know, like I get it as far as wanting to give a team of players a cooperative objective, but it's just really, it's just terrible. I think if they would have made it unique, added something, changed the way that specific kind of objective worked. You capture something, but something different, not exactly just go stand in the zone and wait for it to capture. They could have done something else. I don't know what, but it just, that's why it feels so tacked on, because it's not only does it feel like it doesn't belong, but it's not special. It's not unique to the game. It's just something that they borrowed from a ton of other games that just from multiplayer games, didn't really belong. Anyways, yeah, so I wasn't planning on getting into that. It was just another thing that reminded me of I don't even remember. It's the thing, like I remember there were launch complaints about Avengers, but I don't remember there being a lot of issues though. I don't like. I mean, I had that game on launch day as a digital one too, so I played it immediately. I even had the pre-order like extra couple days early, and I cannot remember encountering like I can't even remember having issues. I'm sure I did. Like I'm sure the game crashed or whatever, but there was nothing as far as gameplay that I can remember being like, oh damn, this is so broken kind of a thing. Anyways, the most recent one. This was like one of the reasons I thought about talking about this at all. It was Cyberpunk 2077. The most recent like super extreme hate fest. Everybody just crapping all over it constantly. That game specifically, I want to talk about, especially because my approach. I had a couple people like kind of complaining at me on how I chose to approach the game, which I understand, but I also couldn't help but laugh because I was just like, whatever, dude. Like I'm gonna play this game the way I want. I don't care how you play it, and I get it. I even recognize, I said it, like I know this isn't the way you're supposed to play this game, like, but I'm playing it the way I want to play it. And actually playing it the way I wanted to play it made me enjoy it more. And anyway, so here's how Cyberpunk went, all right? And I'll tell you my approach and everything, whatever. So I played on the base PS4, not the Pro or whatever, old PS4. And for the most part, it played fine, dude. Like, I mean, I had a couple stutters here and there, had a few crashes. I think it crashed like 9 times. 9 or 10. I remember I was like at 8 when I just stopped tracking, right? Because I just stopped caring, because it rarely ever happened, right? 60 hours. I played it for 60 hours. One playthrough. I didn't do like every class that you can choose as and stuff. So I had 60 hours played on it before I completed the story. And then I think I had like 62 hours played on it before I sent it back. This was a rental that I got from GameFly. So I had the physical version for PS4. I don't know if there was differences as far as performance in the digital version compared to the physical version. I don't know why there would be, but I suppose that's possible. So the way I approached the game, and I knew that for me, like when I not only heard about it, but saw, their hour-long gameplay preview. This was, like a year before the game came out and all that. They showed that big old long-ass hour-long gameplay preview. And I was watching, I was like, it looks really boring to me. And not to hate on the game, it wasn't something that I wanted to play, really. I was like, I didn't think it looked bad. It looked boring to me. And of course, you could also tell, not only it being the devs of, other RPGs and stuff, like you knew it'd be a very story-focused game, which it is. I actually like the story a lot. Oh man, they have some really cool side missions too, like some of the side stories. Not all of them, of course. They do have like your very typical basic kind of fetch quests and whatever kind of things, but a lot of the side quests were really good with pretty cool stories that I actually wish went on longer. There's a couple that I was like, oh man, I really wish there was more to this because they were pretty neat. So my original approach, was I'll treat it like an arcade game, an arcade shooter. And that was my approach in my mind. It didn't mean some of the people that I talked to, because I was very brief about it, I'd be like, I skipped a lot of dialogue. And of course I did exaggerate, but at the same time, it really depends. The reason I approach it this way is because there are so many games, man. You sit through this dialogue, they have you talk to people for 5 to 10 minutes. And when you're as old as I am playing these games, that's what I think. I don't know. I mean, I think it's just because I played them 1,000 times over, So there's a point in different dialogues where you recognize like where it's going and what they're saying and how little it means. It's very characteristical, I guess. I don't know what the word is for that, but it's just characteristics and personality, and it's not really adding to the depth of the story. It's just you getting to know what that character kind of acts like, who they are in the sense of the way they talk and stuff. So what they're saying literally means nothing for your overall objective. This is something I'll tell. That's the best way I know how to explain it, because I recognize it a lot. And the problem with that I hate is that I also know that if I skip all dialogue, I'm probably gonna miss something cool that I want to hear, and that's what makes it a pain in the butt. Is being so used to that kind of like just horrible, boring, dumb dialogue, and not wanting to sit through it. But knowing that if I skip it all, like it's, I'm gonna miss some cool stuff. So I did do a lot of dialogue skipping where I felt like I wasn't in the mood, or what the things they were saying, I just really didn't care. But I did pay attention to a lot of the main story. I didn't ignore the story completely. There was some amazing, oh my gosh. Dude, my favorite thing was, I think it was Judy. You have these like 3 different female options as far as like the main characters. If I remember correctly, I think it was 3. It was Judy, and then Padme. Wasn't Padme? I forget what her name. She was really cool. It's been like a month or so since I played. I can't remember her name. I wish I could remember her name. There were like 3 main chicks, and then there was like 1 dude I think that you could romance. I turned that guy down straight up. I was like, nope. It was funny though. I was entertained by that. But no, they were all cool, but Judy was just naturally my favorite. Like the second I met her as a character in the game, I was like, boom, I love this chick. And I felt that way about every one of them that I met too. They were all so cool. The characters are so cool. So anyway, my favorite part was getting into the romance of Judy, and we had this date, and it was just amazing. It was absolutely incredible. Like I was blown away by it. It was a very beautiful piece of story. And I just realized too that I got super sidetracked into talking. Like my main thing was to talk about games that get a bad reputation because they launch buggy. Right, that was my main thing. Like, whoops, my bad. I'm sorry about that. I did want to. Part of why I wanted to mention that about Cyberpunk specifically is because I did pay attention to a lot of the story stuff. Like I said, I did generally treat it like it was an arcade shooter, but I did pay a lot of attention to the story. I thought it was pretty cool. So my point here is, these are a few games. Anthem, Marvel's Avengers. I just remember having a really bad. What's the word? When just people crap talk about it, the whole time that it comes out, and I sort of get it with Avengers as far as just selling the name kind of, but I'm telling you, the campaign was actually really cool. The story, right? Like it was freaking cool, man. I don't want to spoil it for you, but if you haven't played it, I don't expect anybody to want to. It's such a weird thing because like I completely understand all the complaints and the people look at it going, man, and I wouldn't disagree. I'd be like, I personally gave it an 8 out of 10 because I just enjoyed it that much. This is just a personal overall fun factor score, as well as like I liked the story. But towards the end of the game, at the very end, I'm gonna spoil this for you, so skip ahead if you want. You actually encounter a sentinel freaking X-Men Sentinel, man. I was like, no way. And it was really freaking cool. Um, but I don't know. I they of course could have done better. They could have, that's the thing about that too. That's messed up. A part of this kind of conversation that I'm having with myself here, related to it, as everything relates. It's also the money making factor. It's bullcrap, and then specifically in Marvel's Avengers, like you can tell that they designed it to continue milking people's money, and that's always a disgusting feeling at when you play those games. Like I recognize that too. I completely recognize it. It didn't change the fact that I loved the campaign and I also really enjoyed the gameplay. The gameplay could also use some polish, right? Like, just generally speaking, it could use some polish, but I enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun. Um, oh geez, what a mess though everything is. It's such a mess. It's so sad because it's all about however. I just don't understand it. Like, people defend this stuff. People, like, when I'm saying that the game is good, right? Like, I mean it. But I'm not gonna defend its microtransaction model. Like, I wouldn't. I like the campaign, I like the gameplay, there's a lot of cool things about it. But I wouldn't defend those aspects. So even knowing in my head, like, I gave the game a score an 8. It's just because that's how much I enjoyed it. If I were now, I remember I talked about this and some, I think at a video I did, one of my reviews. It was either, I think it was Watch Dogs Legion. I was talking about it. But if I did score my personal reviews, if I did score them based on different elements of the game, I would have to lower my scores for sure. There are certain things like, and not even just, not like, the thing that really makes me mad about reviews, man, is when anybody starts reviewing bugs. The game crashes, there's bugs in it, and I'm just like, this is like this, the second I read anything, any mention about them complaining about the bugs, and there's a difference between mentioning the bugs because it's worth noting, right? Like, it's worth saying, yeah, like, hey, look, this sucks, this is broken. But when you base your review, and because this is what people do, a lot of people do this. I'm sure you've seen this is where they lose my trust as a reader, is I don't judging a game based on bugs, that not just because they're fixable, but because it's a bug. You don't always encounter bugs. Bugs are different for everybody. For the most part, right? For the most part, there are some bugs that are very general and happen to every player, but those are the ones that are usually like fixed right away. That's why other bugs are harder to fix, because not everybody encounters it all the time. Like, for example, specifically Cyberpunk. Like, I remember seeing this one dude, people were sharing these reviews, and he was like, I forget what I didn't watch the whole thing. It was like an hour, it was over an hour long, and he was just complaining about the crashes, and I was like, are you for real? Like, this is what I'm just like, what the hell are you spend an hour in your video talking about the crashes of a game? And that's a different experience. That is a different experience. We don't all have our game crash on us 50 times in an hour. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, come on, man. So when I see people review, like, again, this is why I try to differentiate between, like, saying this game sucks because it has bugs, or being like, this game's really cool, but here are some issues. These are two different approaches. You know what I mean? They're two different approaches. So if there is legitimate game breaking things, which most of the time they aren't. People call bugs game breaking all the time when you literally just reload the checkpoint. That's what they'll call a game breaking bug. Or you literally just shut the game down and reboot it. And people call these game breaking bugs. And that's, it just drives me nuts, dude. I'm just like, what the hell? Can you at least be realistic about this? Anyways, give me a sec. I'm going to gulp a drink down here. Alright, so I should have did that before I started, but anyways. Yeah, this is kind of out here. Let me tell you something. This is actually kind of why I prefer doing live streams. Prefer, right? It doesn't work out the way I would like it to. But part of it is part of another part of kind of taking so long to even want to start a podcast or whatever is I get I don't this is the simplest way I can put it. I get sick of hearing my own voice kind of a thing. I feel like I don't know when I've reached a point where I've bored somebody, like I want to continue talking. I want to have a discussion and um that's why it's a little that's just one of many reasons why it's been hard for me to even try and think about doing a podcast. And that's actually why if you've seen it lately at all, when I started one with my sister, it's far more easy for me to have an actual conversation, uh, you know, and do a podcast that way. And I have spoken with people that wanted to do podcasts before, but we never, nobody ever like pushed it. And I'm not gonna do it because I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to do it or what to do. I don't know what's wrong. So part of this stuff too, it's the same, like, especially if you do it by yourself, right? Like I've always figured, like, if somebody really wanted to do a podcast with me, they would push and they would know what to do and where to start and what we were going to do. And we could talk about it. But, people always said like, oh, we should do this. And then, it was like a one-time thing. We never really had conversations about going further. And I've told people, I've actually responded to people saying, even strangers that have come to me and saying, hey, you want to collaborate? And I'm like, what? And I was like, I don't know what to do. I've never done that before, and I don't know what it requires, just so you know. And then they were like, okay. And I'm assuming that they don't know either because they wouldn't, like, try to take it further, which is fine. Anyways, I got super off. So I was at this part here where I was talking about, Cyberpunk and all this stuff, and I'm just like, I see that I'm at a half hour mark right now, basically, and I think it makes sense for a podcast to be an hour long. It's usually a commute thing. I was thinking about maybe doing a 20-minute to 30-minute podcast, trying that out first. So before I get into that, I think that's something I might try to do. You can also, if you can, please ever just message me or whatever, and let me know if. If you think that's an okay idea, like a 20-minute, 30-minute. And it really depends on the topic, too. Some topics I can go on about. But this is a starter. I've got to get used to trying to do something like this. And I think the more I get used to it, the more I'll probably write actual scripts, I have a really hard time getting down and focusing on things, especially lately. But, yeah, so today, the one thing that bugs me the most, okay, and I think I'll end with this message. It might be a 10-minute long message. Stick with me if you don't mind. The one thing about this specific topic, games launching bug and having a bad reputation when they come out, I fully understand and agree with problems of games at launch. I agree that they shouldn't happen. Yeah, it's the fact is, it's nice that they are fixable after they launch it, and that comes to the bull crap of the money, right? Like the people saying you gotta launch this now, we're gonna cancel it, or it has to come out, and that's another part of it. The industry is so screwed up. So I don't fully blame the developers, like I do, but not fully, right? Like I do hold them accountable, I guess is the proper phrase. I've been into so much political crap lately. That's what I have in my head. Hold them accountable, I do blame the developers, but not only them. I mean, I get mad too. Over the years, I get mad when I hear about delays for a game I'm really excited for, and now I fully understand them. Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? With the mess of like almost every game launches with problems, right? Delay it, please. Delay it, please. Will you be okay if you delay it? Will the team be able to delay it and just relax and just fix some stuff up and not have to rush and crunch and whatever? Like, can you just chill and just relax and just fix your game? You found some stuff that you need to fix. You're going to need a little bit of extra time. Please Please delay it. And I say that now because I remember I used to be mad, but I didn't know. I didn't realize. I didn't recognize it before the way I did. That's just a part of things changing as time goes by and stuff. Um, but yeah. So I'm not defending these games that launch that way. I just think that they're blown out of proportion. You know what I mean? Like every time, man, every time. I agree that those issues are there, but it's always blown out of proportion. Every freaking time, dude. And I've lost so much respect for so many different content creators, YouTubers that I used to watch, and the one one thing that makes me laugh is I used to hate Jim Sterling, man, because he does the show thing, right? Like I'm not like that. I don't. I've always, what's funny thing about it is I've always wanted to be, well, when I was younger, I always wanted to be an actor. But when I'm giving my opinion on something, I'm not trying to give a fake opinion. I've never understood that about the personalities for content creators. Like I get it as far as, that's what's popular. That's what sells. It's kind of like sex sells. You know what I mean? Sex sells and drama sells. And that's why these people create characters, because that's what sells. That's what attracts the attention. And I'm over here just like, I just say it like I feel, and that's not what people like, I guess, right? You know what I mean? Like, it's so weird. It's so weird. It's so dumb. But anyways, so, my first mini impressions of what the damn, Jimquisition or Jim Sterling, I always thought it was funny because I would watch his videos and I'd be like, I totally agree with a lot of what this guy says, but he's an asshole. Like, I hated his guts, man. I was just like, dude, this guy's an egotistical freaking a-hole, man, But I've come to, I think, 'cause I've only had glimpses of him not being the a-hole, I think, as far as I could tell, the Jimquisition is his character, right? Super egotistical, ridiculous, but also stating facts. That's what's funny about it, because I don't want an a-hole stating facts, dude. I just want a normal person stating facts. But it's like I said, I get it. Sex sells, drama sells, personality sells, kind of a thing, And that's why I can't, even if I can't, man. I'm just, there's all kinds of reasons, okay? Number one is I'm defeated. I give up. The only thing I can do is be me and be honest. That's all I have left. That's all I have left. So I can't. I don't know. I wish it would be so easy to fake it. I wish it would. I can't. So, anyways, I thought it was really funny that he became. I couldn't stand this guy. I could not stand him for years. And he's like one of my most trusted sources right now. And I don't watch him daily. I don't watch every new video that he launches. But I know if I were to go watch a video by him, I could trust him at the moment. And, that can change. Like, times change. You can lose trust. You can lose respect of people, that happens too. And then they have to earn it back. And it's a normal human being thing, right? You can lose trust and then re-earn it. Like Angry Joe. I used to really like him until I lost trust of him during Anthem. 100%. He was an idiot. I could get into that. I like, if you're curious, I could, message me, whatever. I'm not trying to sit here and trash on people, right? I'm explaining, I lost trust and respect for sources, because of things like this, things like blowing this stuff out of proportion. IGN, every major gaming site, I know I never look at. I unfollowed them on every media, every social media. Like, I never see their stuff. I didn't block them, but I might as well. I want nothing to do with them ever again. And that's not just the lack of that's not the loss of trust and respect. That's also their whole advertisement stuff. They sell. Not only do they there's the whole personality selling thing, sex sells, drama sells, but they're also loaded with ads. And I'm just like, dude, I'm just trying to find out about a game, That's it, man. Why do I gotta sit through ads? Why do but I've always been a hater of ads. Always, man. Ever since, just always, always. I hate commercials. And some are okay, but that doesn't mean I want them forced on me. You know what I mean? I don't know. Whatever. It's weird. It's a part of life, but it's a stupid part of life. Like, I hate that. I hate it, man. Just because it's a part of life doesn't mean I like it. People say that stuff too. Well, that's just life. Yeah, I know it is. Like, I know that. What's your point? I still hate it. You know what I mean? Like, anyways, so a part, it's these sources, these websites, and these content creators that blow stuff out of proportion. And maybe a part of that is because that drama sells. Like, even I've jumped on topics that angered me, but I I've also tried mostly to focus on ones that don't anger me. I usually like to just talk about what I like. That's my focus. It always has been. That doesn't mean I don't have opinions on things I don't like. It's just I would rather talk about things I do like, And part of that is like when like if I don't like something, I don't pay attention to it. So I have less information. I'm less experienced. I don't know what I'm talking about for the most part, But anyways, I don't remember how I got sidetracked into all that. I think it was just mostly, it's all kind of related, right? Like when things get blown out of proportion. And the thing that's the worst part of that, the worst part, it's, if you ever go and you read the comments, right? People, you know this. Everybody always makes fun of reading the comments. But this is the sad thing, okay? This is the sad thing. This is the worst, saddest part about it all. Reading comments for this kind of stuff and anything, but specifically with these issues in video games, when games have bugs and have issues, and stuff is blown out of proportion by miles. Like, literally, you would think it's the worst game ever, but it crashes a couple times. You know what I mean? Like, but the worst and saddest thing is the comments, because you can see that these people, hundreds and thousands of them, okay? It's not some small, it's everybody jumps on that bandwagon. Everybody. It's never ending. It's people that you can tell never even played the game. And a lot of them actually will admit to it, which is really funny. They will actually admit, I've never tried it, I never played it, but I trust these guys, kind of a thing. And I can understand that they trust the source, but to be so, if you trust them, then, take their opinion in and whatever. You don't have to go and do what they did and bash the game as well. You didn't play it. You literally just said you didn't play it, and you're still here bashing it. And you have no clue. You haven't even experienced it for yourself. And that's the worst part. And I'll tell you why that's the worst part, okay? Which you probably can tell, but I'm going to spell it out, because sometimes we don't think of things until we're reminded or whatever. But I usually assume people know this stuff, and I'm always surprised to find out that people did need it spelled out. So I don't know. I'm not trying to make people sound stupid or whatever. It's weird to me. But I have seen it. And every time people spell stuff out, I'm like, really? You really need to spell that stuff out? Anyways. You probably already know this, okay? But the worst part, but the reason, this is all included with the worst part, right? Like, the worst is not only people who haven't experienced it, or people that played it. Some people played a tiny bit, right? Some people played it for an hour and like, screw this game, it sucks, it crashed on me, or there's this bug and it sucks, worst game ever. And there are people like that too. So another part of it being the worst is that when you have that bandwagon, when you have the entire comment section flooded with people who just jump in and agree, then the people, it's a popularity contest kind of a thing. It's popularity contest and peer pressure kind of a thing. You're going to get people looking for a real, honest, opinion. And when you have hundreds of thousands of people repeating some bull crap, game crashes, the game's broken, they just don't bother with it. They don't bother trying it. Now, the thing about that, and I will say this, is, if nobody has to buy a game when it comes out, right? I'm a person that's used to. I spent years buying games on sale because I couldn't just buy every new game I wanted for $60. It's way too expensive. I can't do that. I bought too many games in 2020. I didn't realize it until the end of the year, and I was like, oh crap, I spent way too much money on games this year. There was a bunch of games that came out that I wanted, I was very interested in these games. That's why I bought them. Because, like several years back, I had decided that I would no longer buy every game I ever wanted on sale, and instead I would buy them when I'm really interested at full price, like whatever. So, and I figured I'd save money that way. Generally, that has worked out, but 2020 killed me because I didn't think about it. I didn't realize like how many excellent games came out in 2020, or not excellent games, but games I really wanted. I didn't really think about it or anything. I should have. I like at the end of the year, I was like, oh man, I can't believe I got like all these. Like, holy crap, what a year! So there's a lot of cool games that came out, But yeah, so it's one thing to be like, all right, the game's bugged, it crashed, whatever. It kind of sucks. It's disappointing. I'll wait for a sale. But then there's the other side where most people just give up on a game. I'm sure you might have too, right? Like I imagine you probably could think of at least one game. I imagine if if everybody just trashed on it for a year and you were like, you know what, nah, I'm not gonna get it even though I thought it looked cool. Like, that's the worst part of that. It's just the bandwagon stuff, and I get that a bunch of people will agree that there are bugs and crashes, but the way that we as an internet on the internet, the way we treat this stuff is as if it's the worst thing ever created, ever imaginable, and we should know better, man. We should know better. Come on, man. I've played all these games people trash on, man, and I'll tell you what too, like in the past, man, most of my favorite games were hated on by everybody. I'll give you another example. I mentioned it earlier. Brink was one of them. Brink is still to this day the best multiplayer shooter game I have ever played. Because I'm a big team objective, focused person, player, whatever. The game is amazing. It was very special, very unique. But Batman Arkham Origins is my favorite in that whole series, including Arkham Knight. And I loved Arkham Knight. Freaking loved Arkham. But Arkham Origins it's still my favorite. It is still my favorite out of all those games, and that was not even by the original developer, it was Warner Brothers that did that, and it's just my favorite. I just loved it. I also thought the multiplayer in it was very freaking cool, and that was crapped on, and people accused of people would say it was tacked on. Like, no, really, it really wasn't. It was a very special, unique, like kick-ass, interesting multiplayer game mode kind of a thing, It was different. It reminds me of Assassin's Creed multiplayer, if you ever played that. And I remember when I first tried friggin' Assassin's Creed multiplayer, oh my gosh, dude, it was impossible. I didn't understand a damn thing about it, dude. I didn't understand a damn thing about that damn freaking game. But after a long time of trying it, like I was like, oh, I get it now, and even it's because it's unique. It's because there's no other game that I know of, and it's not like I played every game in the world, but I can't think of any other game that had multiplayer like that, and Batman Arkham Origins was the same way. They had third-person shooting in it, but it was Batman and Robin, you had your heroes that were the melee combat, right, versus the thugs with guns. I think, even, you could even play as Joker, if I remember right. I forget all the characters that you could end up playing. There wasn't a whole lot. But there were different characters that you got to play as, as melee versus guns, basically. Now, a whole lots of other stuff, that you had the gadgets, you did have the stuff you could crawl under and all that kind of stuff. But it was a very unique multiplayer. And it was really good. And it was underappreciated, I guess. I don't know. Well, it wasn't popular or whatever. But people on the internet would have you think it sucks because that's the way they would talk about it. Like, oh, it sucks. That's why we don't play it. Like, no, it didn't suck. It just wasn't popular, you know. And it's really hard to make games like that popular too, game modes specifically, because they're so unique. They're not, mainstream. People aren't used to it, and on top of that, when you offer something special and unique like that, you need a player base, like a regular player base. So the other thing that makes it worse when you're dealing with that kind of a thing, when you're dealing with like a unique thing that you're not used to, is people don't play it because it's not easy to jump into, you know? But all it takes is people practicing and getting used to it and getting good at it and getting better and learning it, and then enjoying it. But when your player base is non-existent, you got, you're waiting in lobbies, and that's never fun. Nobody likes to sit in the lobby, dude. Nobody. Or, well, most people anyways, right? I think most gamers don't like sitting in the lobby. There are certain games where you have to, and even those bug me. I'm just like, dude, this is so gross. I insist that every game have a drop in, drop out, anything when it comes to multiplayer. If it's versus or co-op, you better have drop in, drop out. Especially for like an indie smaller game, where you can't do a lobby system in a small game that isn't popular. Like some games blow up, some games get lucky. Some games get lucky, but if you're trying to do something different and special, you can't rely on luck of your game getting popular out of nowhere. You just can't. You got to do it where it's going to be easy for players to be able to jump in and play. So if you have to, have bots, but have a drop in, drop out kind of a thing. Anyways, another one was Tomb Raider multiplayer. Was actually really cool. It was good. It was good. People crapped all over that, So I don't know how I got into that stuff or why. I mean, it's kind of a part of that, people blow things out of proportion, or the internet will have you believe something sucks when it doesn't, and I don't know. I wish it was harder. And, like, I wouldn't, if I had a genie right now, that would be the last thing I'd wish for. I'd wish for peace on earth and everybody to, be able to live a good life without bullcrap. But I do kind of wish that, it wasn't so easy for the internet to be so influential, I guess. I don't know why people just, like, I mean, I get it. If you like someone, you listen to what they have to say, but I wouldn't tell you, like, I'm right. Like, I know that people will disagree with me. But part of that is because it's like I said, almost, especially younger, almost all my favorite games, everybody crapped on, like all the time. Like, I've always liked stuff that people hate. And I'm just like, why? It's like, but it also kind of, that's why, I got into the whole, like, it even took me a while to realize. I wasn't even until, I think it was my 30s, like my mid 30s or my late 30s, where I started thinking about it. And I was like, oh, I can't keep saying that because there's a game that I'm not interested in, that game sucks. Like, I switched it. This was something that I had to mentally train myself repeatedly for. This is something I worked on. I had to keep being like, it's not that I think the game sucks, it's that I have no interest in it. These are two different things. I didn't play that game and try it and then think it sucked. It's just I don't want to play that game because it doesn't look like something I want to play. It's just easier, when you say something, like somebody says, what about this game? You're like, that game sucks. It's easier for people to simplify things like that, right? Like everything. It's always easier to generalize and easier to say something simple like that rather than to explain yourself. So it took me a while before I came up with, I'm just not interested in that right now, and then I get into specifically, like, if I get into even more specifics, like, I'm not interested in it right now, and maybe in 5 years or 10 years from now, I may be interested in it then, because I've been through all the different genres of games, all of them. Every single genre that has existed was at one point my favorite genre, like, every one of them. So that's why it's horrible, but I'm used to disagreeing with everybody on everything. Like, I hate it. It sucks, man. It sucks. I feel like I'm like this super evil villain and stuff, and I'm just like, dude, what the hell, man? Anyways, so I guess I'll probably like describe this episode as a mix, because I did both. I did like couple subjects. It was mainly originally meant to be games that launch and have a bad rep because of bugs, and they're blown out of proportion, man. They just are. That's blown out of proportion. I don't disagree that the games are buggy. I don't disagree that they have issues, but they were perfectly playable. You know what I mean? Perfectly playable and enjoyable. Perfectly playable and enjoyable. All the way. Completely, you know? Like, I don't like when my games crash on me or anything, but I mean, yeah, I still got plenty of hours played on it and plenty of enjoyment out of it. I will say real quick before I go, Cyberpunk on PS4 specifically, not just crash issues or game bugs, whatever. But it did have performance stuttering here and there. One thing that it reminded me of was Grand Theft Auto 4, because Grand Theft Auto 4 was the first game kind of like that I played where I had to drive slowly through the city, and it took me a long time to realize like, oh, it's kind of like a driving simulator, like you're not supposed to race through the streets. And once you get used to that, and you get used to driving through it slowly, then you know where you can speed up and how fast you can go at certain spots and when you need to brake more and that kind of thing. And Cyberpunk is very much like that. So there were spots in Cyberpunk on the PS4 specifically where if you were driving too fast, that it would you would likely encounter a crash more often. Like they would be putting too much pressure on the CPU or whatever it is, right? The faster you drove in like really really detailed parts of the city and the bigger skyscrapers and all that, whatever, you had a higher chance of crashing. It didn't mean it would crash every time. Like I did enough speeding through that game, but there would be a more stuttering, more performance issues the faster you go. So, anyways, hopefully this was entertaining enough. I know it's a bit sloppy, a bit messy, and I even feel weird, but I'm gonna give this a try. I mean, I'm satisfied enough, kind of, sort of. I did say a lot of stuff I wanted to talk about. Got into some other stuff that I wasn't expecting to talk about, but was kind of related, So anyways, if you have any ideas of what you would like to hear me talk about, I would truly appreciate it. Help me get some episodes out, because it's hard for me to come up with this stuff on my own. Like, I always assume and think nobody wants to hear it anyways. So, thank you very much for listening, and I'll talk to you sometime. Bye.